dissent questioning the nature of what constitutes undue burden is permissive of the coercive behavior and stalling tactics and intimidation that happen at these clinics. Today, we bring you a taste of what exactly goes on inside one of these fake clinics so that you can join us in exposing them and understand the kind of tactics that Brett Kavanaugh may find constitutional as a member of the Supreme Court. I would now like to direct your attention over to the fountain and turn it over to our narrator on this journey, Jay.
Thanks so much. As Ariel just said, fake women's health centers or crisis pregnancy centers pose as real reproductive health centers, but in reality they only exist to coerce people into not getting an abortion. It would take 3 hours to show you all of the different tactics these fake clinics use, so we've created a 5-minute speed date for you. Acting as our patient today is Meredith.
Louder, please.
Louder. As loud as it goes, guys. So Meredith,
come on in.
Let's talk about some scenarios that may have brought you to this place. Maybe you peed on a stick and found out you're pregnant. Maybe you're scared. Maybe you're broke, or whatever the reason, you need an abortion. You probably saw an ad on a billboard or a bus or in a Google search that said something like free pregnancy tests, free ultrasounds, choices, options. They use stealth tactics to confuse you to get you in the door, and it works because here you are. And before you enter, I must warn you that everyone we meet will act very, very compassionate, and it's that fake compassion and fake concern that keeps you in the big clinic. All right, Meredith, are you ready? Audience, are you ready? Behold the fake clinic.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, turn.
Look, it seems so real, but it's anything but. Meredith, you're on your own now. And here comes the receptionist.
Hi, welcome to Planned Motherhood. We're so happy you found us. Please rest, everything's going to be okay. It's okay. Yeah, I do.
How's this? First trick. It's called Planned Motherhood. They do this a lot. Pick a name which sounds familiar. It sounds like a place that will offer abortion services, so you think you're walking into a legitimate health center. That sense of comfort as people willingly handing over highly personal information to a place that isn't required by law to keep it confidential because it sounds legit.
The first thing we need to do is confirm you are pregnant with a medical-grade pregnancy test, so don't worry, it's free for you.
Okay, these medical-grade pregnancy tests are just as accurate as ones you can buy in a dollar store. This is just a tactic to trick the patient into thinking that they're receiving actual medical care.
The test is positive, so we're going to have to...
The next steps are going to seem like a million doctor visits you've had before, giving us no indication that she's being manipulated.
So let's head over to the exam room and get you those 3 ultrasounds and see how far along you are. Go ahead and put on the critical gown and all goes on to the body.
This is great! She's about to have a legit ultrasound in an exam room by a medical licensed professional, right? Wrong. In fact, the receptionist just took away her clothes and phone, but she didn't realize it because she's scared and just wants some answers from a doctor.
Someone would be enjoying these.
Notice that she said someone and not the doctor. We'll begin to see. It turns out anyone can legally do an ultrasound. It's rare that they ever have any medical professionals or doctors on site or deception. Even if you're starting to catch on, remember, you don't have your clothes or your phone, which makes you hostage to this situation.
How are you? Are you performing your ultrasound today?
Not a doctor, probably got the lab coat on Amazon, but so compassionate.
Okay, so how are you doing? You know, I know this is like a lot to take in and want to know that I am here for you. So let's just see how far along you are.
So this doctor didn't get her blood pressure or weight or ask about any family history or any other standard taxes that happen at an actual appointment. But she didn't notice because she's scared, and she still feels like this is a real medical facility. So she just let this imposter rub belly on her jelly and give them an ultrasound.
Okay. Well, there is your baby. It looks like you're about 14 weeks tomorrow. Congratulations. Okay, now let's talk about your choices, okay? It says here that you are not married, and as you know, that sex before marriage is technically the consequence of that. So you're going to have to take responsibility for your behavior here.
By using phrases like consequence of sex and take responsibility, Big Doc is starting to reveal the real agenda. And just listen to what happens when she's asked about abortion.
We don't offer abortion. We honestly don't. We just can't guarantee safety. You know, like, can you hear me now? Louder. So we just can't guarantee that they're safe, that they're going to use sterile. Honestly, you have no idea what they might touch over. So in good conscience, I can't recommend abortion.
Cutting? That is flat out propaganda. There is never any cutting in any abortion, but that is just the beginning. Listen to the terrifying list of fake health risks the fake doc is about to fire off.
Now, I know the abortion might seem like a little short, okay? But what they don't tell you is that abortion can cause brain mental health damage, increase your risk of breast cancer, cause infertility, and possibly death.
Oh, no, no!
You survive. I mean, would you be able to live with yourself knowing that you killed your baby?
Oh, this is all a lie. When a doctor said it's true, then gave pamphlets to say it's true, so why wouldn't it be true?
Freedom of information can take a couple of weeks, and take the time, you have plenty of time to decide what you want to do.
But she doesn't need more time to decide. She knew when she came here that she wanted an abortion. This is a dangerous delay tactic taking clinics often use. By lying how far you're along, by putting it off, you actually push past the legal limit to get an abortion, which is the only goal.
Okay, now I'll put you down, and I'll use the ultrasound if you stay home. So what are you about? And schedule an appointment to see us in about...
What are you doing? Everybody's out there in the shade. Come on in. Are you ready to fight for freedom? Yes! Hello, hello. This is your pregame. Are you ready? Yes! I'm Heidi Seek, the co-founder of Vote Pro Choice, and I would just like to take a very brief moment to call in our greater angels as we honor the life of Senator John McCain, who fought for human rights and justice, and may we make him proud for those ideals today. Yes. But like I said, I'm Heidi Seek with Vote Pro Choice, and we offer the largest pro-choice voter guide and help elect pro-choice champions in every election everywhere where reproductive rights are at stake. And I think we know that reproductive freedom is at stake right now, don't we? Yes. And we know that freedom itself is at stake, don't we? Are you ready, Unite for Justice, to fight for freedom? Yes. Yes, we are. So we are here today to put a stop to the madness. We are here to stop this regressive, creepy, power-hungry Kavanaugh guy from spending a lifetime on the Supreme Court. Yes. This red guy wants to let Donald Trump get away with anything and take us back 40 years, a time when hundreds of thousands of women died to exercise their reproductive freedom. He wants to put us back in our place. Do you know where our place is? Right here. That's right. Right here, Unite for Justice. So to Brett Kavanaugh, we say no, just no, right? Kavanaugh has got to go. Let me hear it. No, just no. Kavanaugh has got to go. Kavanaugh has got to go. Kavanaugh has got to go. Everybody, you're chanting all day. Kavanaugh has got to go. Kavanaugh has got to go. Kavanaugh has got to go. This is going to be your morning, so get ready. We're going to chant a lot for like a month. So let's be honest, we are in this place right now because a small group of small-hearted, small-minded men want to stay in power. And that's likely not the only thing on them that's small. But they know they need to control us to stay in power. But you know what the truth is? We are stronger than they are. Our hearts are bigger. Our voices are louder. We have more power than they do, and we cannot forget that. Don't forget that today, Unite for Justice. 72% of American voters believe that we should have reproductive freedom in America. That includes Democrats, Republicans, and probably some Trump voters. 72% of voters understand that reproductive freedom is freedom. Do you know what that means? We are a pro-choice nation, right? Yes, we are. So we have to stop this small group of people telling us to feel shame. They try to control us, but we have the power to stop the madness, to change the course of history today and forever. Because the sad, sick fact is, every single senator cares far more about staying in office than they care about us. The most important message that we can send today is there are 45,000 races on the ballot in November. 45,000. Not just Congress, but state government, local elections, school boards, all of them important. There is a blue ocean of blue wave voters out there, and we can, we must, we will win all of them. Yes? Yes. So hear this, senators. If you don't vote for us, if you don't put a stop to these hearings, if you don't vote against creepy Brett Kavanaugh and criminal Donald Trump and all of this madness and misogyny in Washington, senators, if you don't vote pro-choice in Alaska and Maine and Indiana and West Virginia and North Dakota, everywhere, senators, if you don't vote pro-choice for us right now, we will vote pro-choice in November and we will vote you out. Let's tell them. Vote pro-choice or we will vote you out. Let's try. Vote pro-choice or we will vote you out. Vote pro-choice or we will vote you out.
There's an open seat on the Supreme Court, and the person who fills it could shift the course of our entire nation. Donald Trump's nominee is Brett Kavanaugh, and he's ready to deliver the conservative dream. Hooray! Overturn and gut Roe v. Wade, which would almost immediately criminalize abortion in 16 states. That means if Kavanaugh is confirmed, women in those states could be sent to prison just for trying to access health care. It gets worse. If Roe is overturned, Congress could pass a federal ban on abortion and make it illegal in 50 states overnight. We have to stop this. And the good news is, we absolutely
out here in this heat, you could all be at the beach, but you're here. You're here. Can I hear you? Nice. My name is Kaylee Hansen-Long, and I'm here from NARAL Pro-Choice America. We are the nation's largest reproductive rights advocacy organization, and I am also so proud to be here today to stand with MoveOn.org members, Demand Justice, Planned Parenthood, Color of Change, the Human Rights Campaign, the Working Families Party, Moms Rising, Friends of the Earth, People's Defense, and over 70 other supporting organizations members. You all who are raising your voices to say no on Brett Kavanaugh. Can I hear you say no? All right, thank you. And before we get started, I want to just say, you know, we all at NARAL and Move On and the rest of these organizations are sending our deepest condolences to Senator McCain's family. Senator McCain, all of us here, and all of these supporting organizations, we really share the love of this country. He fought to protect our democracy and our right to peacefully assemble like we're doing right here. And so for that, we applaud him and his legacy. And so, sir, Senator, may you rest in peace, and our hearts are with you. Thank you. So we're all here, peacefully assembling in community today with our brothers and sisters because we all care so deeply about the future of this country. And we all know what's at stake with Brett Kavanaugh on the court. I mean, you all remember 2016 when Donald Trump said over and over and over again that if he had the chance, he would appoint a Supreme Court justice who would overturn Roe versus Wade. What do you say to that? I mean, and I know you all remember when he also said there had to be some form of punishment for women who seek abortion care. And with Brett Kavanaugh, that would be a reality. Abortion would be criminalized, and women would be punished. And let's be clear, the number of abortions wouldn't go down, but the number of deaths and injuries would go up. You know, some might say that Roe v. Wade is, quote, settled law. Well, guess who actually settles law in this country? The United States Supreme Court. If Brett Kavanaugh is confirmed, he'll be the one settling law against women and families alongside Neil Gorsuch, Trump's first Supreme Court pick. That means this man, thank you, that means this man, Brett Kavanaugh, who is already on record ruling against a woman's right to choose in Texas, would be settling the laws of this nation. The laws that determine what we can do with our bodies and our futures. But, you know, and it's not just about a woman's right to choose, obviously. This is about the future of voting rights. This is about the future of LGBTQ rights. It is about workers' rights. It's about immigrant rights, environmental protections, and so many more. You know, nothing less than the future of our democracy hangs in the balance with this vote. And so, I have some good news. Thankfully, here in New York, you are represented by two amazing senators who are leaving it all out on the field to make sure Brett Kavanaugh is not our Supreme Court. Yes. You are represented by the amazing Senator Chuck Schumer and the incomparable Senator Kirsten Gillibrand. And she has been leading the charge in feminism since before it was cool, okay? We've got them and their folks here in the crowd today, and so let's make sure we give them one last big round of applause so they can take that energy back with them to Washington tomorrow. Let's hear it! So, what you guys might not know, because I've been getting updates back there, but right now, we are all a part of history. There are activists at 160 events around the country just like this, all over the country, of people speaking out and sharing why they believe we should not have Brett Kavanaugh on the Supreme Court. You are officially a part of the largest single-day protest of a Supreme Court nominee in United States history.
And, you know, why is that? It's because Brett Kavanaugh is the least popular nominee for the Supreme Court, nominated by the least popular president in a generation. And by the way, do you know what's about 40% more popular than these guys? Roe versus Wade. Roe versus Wade. Our senators need to know this, they need to hear this, and they need to stop this president from installing Kavanaugh on the bench for the rest of his life. And let's be honest, do we really want Michael Cohen's potential co-conspirator to be in charge of picking our next Supreme Court justice? So you guys, we have to keep this energy going. We have to make sure that senators all across the country, like Dean Heller all the way out in Nevada, Susan Collins out in Maine, Lisa Murkowski out in Alaska, can hear us all demand that they vote no on Brett Kavanaugh. We need to be loud. We need them to hear us all the way across the country. So can I get one big cheer just to make sure they can hear us? Ready, set, go. Woo! I think she could hear that in Alaska. I don't know. You You guys, we have an awesome program for you today. We're going to see some more performances from Lady Parts Justice and Liz Winstead. We're going to hear from Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney. We're going to hear from Alyssa Mastromonaco of Crooked Media and NARAL Pro-Choice America. And we're going to be hearing from all sorts of amazing activists, you know, just like you and other people who work alongside me. Have you ever heard of Lauren Duca from Teen Vogue? She's here with us. Woo! So some little housekeeping details before we get started. If you're tweeting, if you're Instagramming, you're Facebooking, keep doing it. Do it all day long. Do it for the next month. Make sure that you use the hashtag #StopKavanaugh because I want to compile all these later and show them to all my friends. And we need those senators to see this too. And because I know you all want to stay involved in this event in this movement after this event is over, I want you to take out your phones and text the word UNITE to 668366. So throughout the day, texting UNITE to 668366. And finally, self-care is very important. The bathrooms are back there. There's water over there. Your energy is here. And your own personal megaphone is right here, okay? So I want to hear you guys loud and proud all day long. And now, with that, I want to introduce our first incredible speaker, someone who has been fighting for our basic freedoms for her entire life. And you know what? She wasn't just fighting alone. She was fighting as Deputy Chief of Staff to our hero, President Barack Obama, who we miss desperately every single day. Now she's part of the resistance with Crooked Media. Maybe you've heard of Pod Save America. The Wing. She's the author of Who Thought This Was a Good Idea? A question I ask myself on the daily. And I'm happy to say she's now a colleague of mine at NARAL Pro-Choice America. So give it up for Alyssa Mastromonaco.
Hi, everyone. Just housekeeping note from President Barack Obama himself. In the heat, make sure you don't lock your knees. That's how people pass out. So, anyway, as part of our day of action, people across the country are writing letters to their senators. As Kaylee said, we are very lucky here in New York to have Senator Schumer and Senator Gillibrand. But there are two senators in particular who claim they want to be a voice for women and families, and yet they're still weighing whether or not to vote to confirm Brett Kavanaugh. Susan Collins of Maine and Lisa Murkowski of Alaska. Hundreds of activists in their backyards right now today to send a message that you cannot support women and families and also vote to confirm Brett Kavanaugh. I stand in solidarity with those activists, our brothers and sisters, and I know you do too. So here is my letter to Senator Collins and Senator Murkowski. Dear Lisa and Susan, I hope you don't mind me calling you by your first names. I was raised in Obama land where we go high when others go low and learned long ago how to disagree without being disagreeable. First, let me say that you are patriots and public servants, and I believe you love this country. Lisa, you were 16 years old when Roe v. Wade made abortion a constitutionally guaranteed right, and Susan, you were 21. You may have grown up with views on abortion different than mine, but ultimately you still always had the freedom to make a choice. As adults, you too don't know a world before Roe v. Wade was the law of the land. And the closest thing younger generations know of that time is what we watched in Dirty Dancing. When Penny didn't have any money, Baby lied to her dad to get $250, which only brought Penny a back alley abortion in New Paltz, and she almost died. But now, you both hold the fate of approximately 93 million women of childbearing age in your hands. With this vote on Brett Kavanaugh, you will be defining the future of these women, these 93 million women, with one vote. You cannot ignore what has been said and what is true. President Trump committed to overturn Roe v. Wade. He stated he would pick justices that would criminalize abortion and make it illegal. You are not just voting for the swing vote on the court, you are voting to change the face of it for the rest of our lifetimes. As President Trump rolls back environmental standards to make our world less safe, calls women slobs, threatens world leaders on Twitter, destroys relationships with our allies, meets with dictators without getting briefed, knowingly separates migrant families with no plan to reunite or care for them, and continues to keep us up at night, How can you justify even considering confirming a man who will relegate Roe v. Wade to the, quote, ash heap of history, as Mike Pence has said? How can you make us all worry about what the futures for our body means? And another thing, if the National Archives, which is totally apolitical, says it cannot produce the documents the senators need to vet his position on current law until late October, why is that timeline not acceptable? This is likely the most important vote you'll ever take. Why not give it the time it deserves? Democrats and Americans aren't asking for anything out of the ordinary. This is how confirmations for Bush, Obama, Clinton were all done. Why should Trump, a president who is currently an unindicted co-conspirator to federal crimes, get to put forward a nominee for a lifelong appointment to the Supreme Court without historically practiced due diligence? A nominee like Brett Kavanaugh, who coincidentally does not believe presidents can be indicted. Just this past Thursday, the Senate voted on defunding Planned Parenthood, and you ladies know federal money doesn't pay for abortions, and that vote still only failed 45 to 48, and you were crucial votes to maintain the available and affordable health care Planned Parenthood provides to so many women. So I have to believe that you understand this Supreme Court vote could effectively make women second-class citizens. After that, what other fundamental rights will be in jeopardy? I believe that President Clinton, President Bush, Reagan, and President Obama, once they were sworn into office, acted as president of all the American people. President Trump clearly and continuously states that he is president of his supporters, and honestly, the rest of us can go fuck ourselves. So Susan and Lisa, this vote is simply too important to cast it in fear of a rabid minority. If Judge Kavanaugh is confirmed as a justice or overturned entirely, women will die. That is what we know about a world before Roe. Women died. This is what we know about countries where abortion is illegal or heavily restricted. Women die and babies die. And in America in 2018, the United States Senate will decide whether they believe women should die. It's that simple. So ladies, people may yell at you, try and shame you, but I am begging you. You are the last line of defense for the 93 million women in America who need family planning, affordable health care, and access to safe and legal abortions. Last night, we learned that a great patriot, Senator John McCain, passed away. In his honor, no. In his honor, I want to include a quote that moved me to tears as I watched it from Grant Park in Chicago on election night in 2008, and is an example of politics in this country at its very finest. I urge all Americans who supported me to join in not just congratulating him, but offering our next president our goodwill and earnest effort to find ways to come together, to find the necessary compromises to bridge our differences and help restore our prosperity, defend our security in a dangerous world, and leave our children and grandchildren a stronger, better country than we inherited. Whether our differences, we are fellow Americans, and please believe me when I say that no association ever meant more to me than that. So please, Senator Murkowski, Senator Collins, please remind President Trump that we are all fellow Americans, women and men, and please stand up for what is right. Stand up for all of us. Little girls in America shouldn't grow up with fewer rights than their grandmothers. Be mavericks.
Millions of people took to the streets today after the Supreme Court's shocking decision to gut Roe v. Wade, with Justice Brett Kavanaugh as the deciding vote. It is expected that at least 16 states will outlaw abortion quickly, and President Trump has already called on Congress to pass a federal Roe v. Wade, with Justice Brett Kavanaugh as the deciding vote. It is expected that at least 16 states will outlaw abortion quickly, and President Trump has already called on Congress to pass a federal ban that would make abortion illegal nationwide.
Protesters marched and chanted to defend a woman's right to choose, but in many states, and for many women, these protests were simply too late.
Do a little call and response, okay? So when I say Cava, you say nope. Cava? 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 Thank you. I definitely think Lisa could hear that one. All right, next we're going to hear from M. Odessa. She is truly impressive. She is 18 years old and award-winning publisher of Teen Eye magazine with almost 1 million readers. She was one of Vice's 6 young activists who made history, and she organizes her generation around issues including sex positivity, sex education, Black Lives Matter, curriculum reform, immigration rights, she's a very busy woman, mental health equity, and of course, reproductive rights. Please welcome M. Odessa.
Hello. As perhaps the youngest speaker here, I'm lucky enough to say that my only experience with illegal abortions has been secondhand. Growing up in New York in 2000s meant that when I was a senior in high school last year and 3 of my friends came to me individually, crying and stressed, worrying they may be pregnant, we were able to easily figure out the next steps. We scheduled an appointment on the very pink Planned Parenthood website, and in less than 48 hours after their frantic messages, I would find myself holding their hands while sitting in the fluorescent lit waiting room. Thankfully, none of them were pregnant. But each time, we had the assurance that if they were, we could terminate the pregnancy and continue their educations. It was simple, easy, and straightforward. Most likely, you already know what a luxury that is, and the frustration of me using the word luxury to describe a quick medical appointment is not lost on me. My 3 friends had it easy, compared to the 3 relatives of mine who told me their stories of growing up before Roe v. Wade. They were also in their teens or early 20s, but their experiences with unplanned pregnancies were vastly different. My grandma, in addition to having 2 illegal abortions of her own, worked in a social services office and aided those in recovery. She'd watch people come in with ruptured uteruses, holding bloodied hangers or sewing needles or gauze because they were forced to resort to drastic measures. This, of course, pales in comparison to the years when she was a child, when Comstock was cracking down on the ability to even discuss contraception, and women were rolling themselves down staircases trying to facilitate miscarriages. I'm here because I don't want to go back in time. I don't want to reach my mother, my aunt, my grandma's age, and have to tell my kids about the time I had to meet someone in a back alley, the time I had to fly to Puerto Rico, the time I had to scrape up thousands of dollars in a week because I couldn't go to my doctor's office. I don't want that for anyone in my generation. Between you and me, I'm really frustrated that no matter what, I'll be explaining why I was speaking here today. There's a quote that I love by Margaret Atwood. In an interview with Broadly, she doesn't describe the abortion debate as pro or anti-choice. Instead, she reminds us that the right to life is one way to put it, and forced childbirth is another way. Yeah! I want to echo that statement. To restrict the right to terminate a pregnancy is to force someone to give birth. There's another quote I love that I actually read on Twitter, and it says, if you think that a person can only have an abortion after getting raped, you're saying they need to be violated before they have rights to their own body. And it's true. You know, medical professionals understand that in every other area of our lives, there are unexpected moments that arise. Why shouldn't pregnancy fall under the same umbrella? Preventative contraception and abortion must be legal and must be accessible to all of us no matter what, because autonomy should not only be granted after a horrendous act. Is there any way to truly ban abortion? Yeah, no, there's not. There's only ways to ban the safe practices. Brett Kavanaugh represents a threat to our autonomy. If his stances in his past reproductive cases don't already indicate that, just remember that Trump has tried to elect officials to hold on every single one of his other campaign promises. He has told us multiple times, plain as day, that he wants to repeal Roe v. Wade and punish women who are desperate to have autonomy. No, Yes. Next year, I'm planning to go to college in Iowa, and I'm imagining most of my political activity will be spent trying to convince my local representatives to protect our right to a safe, legal, and accessible abortion. Woo! The nomination of Brett Kavanaugh may very well change that. I'm not going down without a fight, and neither should you. If I have to go to D.C. and protest every single day in front of 1 First Street, then I will. There's a long history of people with vaginas banding together to protect their autonomy, and I intend to follow the footsteps of Jane and the feminist health centers to push this incredible movement forward and not backwards. No more Becky Bells. No more Jerry Santoros. If it wasn't painfully obvious already, my generation is sick and tired of having lawmakers dangle our rights in front of us and snatch them away. We have more resources than ever before to mobilize a passionate league of voters, and if you've tried to force us to carry babies, we will rise against you. We have the numbers. We have the numbers, we have the motivation, we have the education, and we have the urgency. So let's do the right thing.
Give it up one more time for M. I mean, were you doing that in high school? I was not. Amazing. Before we see our next speaker, I want everybody to do me a favor, okay? I want you to reach into your back pocket. I want you to take out your phone, hold it up so I can see it. I don't see any phones. Oh, okay, all right. I see some phones. Pull up the text messaging app. Now text 668366. Text the word UNITE to 668366. That way we can keep this party going, we can keep moving this forward all month long, we can keep it moving years long, okay? So make sure you do that right now for me, and thank you so much. Our next speaker is someone who is fighting day in and day out for New Yorkers. He is making sure that all of you have the right protections in place, and he is fighting for our shared values. We are so lucky to have him. Thank you so much to Comptroller Stott Springer. Woo!
I wanted to say to all of the advocates and activists who a generation ago understood that there was a president of the United States that was conducting an illegal war in Vietnam that tried to trample on the Constitution, and activists of that generation stepped forward and made sure Richard Nixon was not president. I thank you. And today, those advocates and activists stand with the next generation of Americans, young women and men who understand what's at stake in this country. I believe in very short order, when we take back the Congress, we will have impeachment hearings. And we will have those hearings because our Constitution once again is being challenged and stepped on. And it's up to us to fight back right now. I do not want my children to grow up in a country where the word civil rights has suddenly become something that is not adhered to. I do not want my kids to look at what's happening in the world and thinking that this is okay. And I urge everybody here, as we challenge the Kavanaugh nomination, to understand that we've got to knock on doors and take back the House and gut this nomination and get rid of the IDC in New York State right now. I may not be able to directly influence Congress in another state, but we can damn well make sure that New York is 100% blue, and it starts in a few weeks. So to all of you, we know this fight is for the long haul. They have resources and they have a lot of power. They misrepresent so much of what we believe. But today, this rally is happening all across the country. And we will look back on this generation and we will say to the young people here today, thank you for your service and saving our country. Thank you.
Okay, everybody. So next up, we have an awesome performance for you. We are going to hear from Betty. Betty is Allison Palmer, Amy Ziff, and Elizabeth Ziff, award-winning activist artists who have a special place in my heart, who've been playing pop music together for all over the world for 32 years. Betty is pro-choice, pro-equality, pro-queer, pro-straight, pro-women, pro-immigrant, pro-environment, pro-peace, pro-reading, pro-fun, pro-facts, pro-food, pro-dessert, pro-love, and anti-violence. They have a nonprofit called thebettyeffect.org to help promote self-advocacy for women and girls, the LGBTQ communities, and others worldwide. You can find them at hellobetty.com, but right now, let's say hello, Betty.
Woo! Wow, you look amazing. Hi, everybody. We're the band Betty. Oh, that's awesome, but you got something to learn. Here's what happens when we say hi, we're Betty. That's your cue to scream back at us. Hello, Betty. With a lot of enthusiasm. And a lot of radical anger. It's time to make a difference, everybody. Close my eyes, pretend to see nothing. Nothing's gonna change. Nothing's gonna break. Nothing's gonna give. Nothing's gonna make a difference. Nothing's gonna make a difference. Nothing's gonna make a difference. Sisters, we are all equal in rights and dignity. Rights and dignity. What the hell? No one here. No one close my eyes, pretend to hurt. No one. No one's gonna change. No one's gonna break. No one's gonna give. No one's gonna make a difference. No one's gonna make a difference. No one's gonna make a difference. To all the little girls, never doubt. When they go low, we go high. You are valuable, dreaming, and powerful. Working, making the money, giving the money, sharing the money. Sisters, making the time, giving the time, sharing the time. Giving a damn, giving a damn, giving a damn. We go high. If I wait too long to sing my song, close my eyes, pretend that it's not all wrong. Nothing's gonna change. Everything I have, all of it is gone. And I should have made a difference. Someone's gotta make a difference. I could have made a difference. Someone's gotta make a difference. And I should have made a difference. Someone's gotta make a difference. I should have made a difference. Someone's gotta make a difference. And I could have made a difference. All of us make a difference. Thank you, everybody. Keep fighting. Thanks for being here. Get our country back. Cava, no. Cava, no. Cava, no. Cava, no.
Oh my gosh, were they amazing? Let's give it up one more time for Betty. You're going to hear them again. Now our next speaker speaker is someone who I have really looked up to for a long time, and I know so many of you have. She is a fighter day in and day out for New Yorkers. She goes to Washington and brings your voice to the Capitol. Give it up for the woman who is representing New York's 12th congressional district. That means so many of you. Please welcome Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney.
Thank you, Katie and Mayor for taking cases to the Supreme Court to protect women and fighting for us every single day, and for Move On for all their organizational work, and Unite for Justice that has brought 70 organizations, 70 demonstrations, and many groups supporting it, over 70 across this nation, 180 demonstrations today. And thank all of you for coming. Nothing you could be doing is more important than stopping Kavanaugh. So thank you for being here. Make no mistake, the nomination of Judge Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court is a threat to our rights and our future. For decades, Republicans have made no secret of their attitude towards women, working people, immigrants, the environment, the LGBT community. Now they've found their nominee who will make all their destructive, discriminatory dreams come true. We must stop his appointment. Justice Kavanaugh on our nation's highest court means the virtual destruction of Roe v. Wade, reproductive rights, the Affordable Care Act, environmental protections, immigrant rights for generations to come. But it doesn't just stop there. Justice Kavanaugh was nominated by a president whose personal lawyer just implicated the president in a crime, and if appointed, Justice Kavanaugh would find himself sitting in judgment of the President Trump, in the not too distant future. And President Trump, he's picked someone who doesn't seem to believe that presidents can face criminal charges. He's written that in his court cases. So we say, no one is above the law, not even the president. Now, if President Obama's appointment, Merrick Garland, who he put forward, could not be given confirmation hearings because the Republicans said we have the 2016 elections coming, well, we're saying, let's be even-handed. Let's have the same standard. No confirmation hearings until the 2018 election. Let's stop it. Stop it now. And make sure we have a Democratic House to have a break on this president after the 2018 elections. There is too much at stake for the American people to have a hyper-partisan justice installed for a lifetime term in these uncertain times. The Senate should put a hold right now on this nomination immediately for the sake of our people, our country, and our Constitution. Now this nomination is unusual for many reasons, and there is an obvious bias. The person screening Justice Kavanaugh and deciding which records we can look at, we now find out that he worked for him when he worked for Bush in the White House. So this is not just a blatant conflict of interest. This is more corruption from the Trump White House, and we've got to stop it. The nomination of Brett Kavanaugh is one more sorry chapter in a grotesque, ongoing attempt to politicize absolutely every single entity in our government that is intended to be fair and unbiased. We have to stop it. And the nomination is not just dangerous to the rights of women. It's not just dangerous to the Affordable Care Act. It's not just dangerous for the poor, disadvantaged, to immigrants and the dreamers and our LGBT community. It's dangerous to any American who isn't well connected. It is an outrage, and we must oppose it with every single fiber of our being. Stop Kavanaugh! Stop Kavanaugh! Stop Kavanaugh!
Thanks so much for coming in to talk about joining AmeriCorps' HR team.
It's an honor just to be considered.
So, I have your resume, but I do have some questions. I just want to
my body because it's all mine.
You should have the freedom to pursue whatever options you and your doctor deem necessary.
What is at stake with Brett Kavanaugh?
Thanks so much for coming in to talk about joining AmeriCorps' HR team.
It's an honor just to be considered.
So, I have your resume, but I do have some questions. I just want to fill in some blanks.
Please.
So it says here in 1998...
I'm sorry, I can't answer that at this time.
You know what? That one's my bad. Next question. In the 2012 Journal of Human Resources, you controversially stated...
Nope.
Forgive me. I am mortified. Would you mind one more question?
I'm an open book.
Thank you. So I was just noticing that you once worked for George W. Bush.
Well, then our next speaker is actually one of the organizers of that most historic day that all of you were a part of. She is an artist, she is an activist, and she has brought an awesome surprise guest for us today. So next we're going to be hearing from the wonderful Sarah Sophie Flicker. Woo! Hi, everybody. All right, so I almost didn't come up here today because the truth is I am a super privileged white lady and all the issues we are talking about today won't affect me. If I lose my health care, I can pay for it. If I need to get an abortion, even if I need to go to another state, which thank goodness we live in New York and that won't happen, but you know, I could. And so I just want, before I say my little thing, I just want to remind us all that our liberation is bound in each other's, right? And we need to center the voices of the people on the front lines who are most impacted, and I'm not sure that we are representing that on this stage today. So let's just keep that in mind and onward. So we are hearing a lot about Roe today. We are hearing a lot about abortion. We are hearing a lot about reproductive rights. And I will say I had an abortion when I was a teenager. It was not a hard decision. I'm saying it only because I think we need to say it out loud more often. What was difficult about it was that I didn't tell a soul until about 10 years ago, and this is when I was a teenager, and I am old as the hills now. So, and I didn't tell anyone because I was ashamed, and I was ashamed and I was embarrassed, and the stigma attached to it was actually like harder for me at least than the actual choice. Now, I went on to have 3 kids 15, 20 years later, and I understand now that having a child is the single most important financial choice a person will ever make. And I say that because it's not just about bodily autonomy, right? It's not just about reproductive rights, it is about reproductive justice, which, you which does center the most impacted, and basically is a ripple down effect of all the ways in which our lives are impacted with the single choice to have or not have a child. So Kavanaugh and where Trump wants to take the Supreme Court is all about maintaining the status quo, right? This administration is entirely about maintaining minority rule and the flimsy grasp that white men have on power, and this is their last gasp, right? These issues are not new. We have fought them before, and we are here again to fight them. I want to say this, and I hope you hear it, because I think, judging by the size of this crowd, I know we are exhausted. This is August. They are doing this intentionally. They are throwing chaos everywhere so we can't focus on important issues. This is the important issue. We are not obliged to finish this work. The road to justice is always under construction, right? But neither are we free to abandon it. They take away control of our bodies. They take away our right to abortion, to health care, to a livable wage, to our right to vote, our ability to raise children without the threat of poverty, without the threat of violence, without the threat of police violence, right? They take away right to a quality education, to migration and asylum, to an environment free of poison, our right to partner with who we choose, the right to the identity that is correct for us, our sexuality. They take away these rights to hold on to their power and privilege. And all of these issues are at stake, and so much more if we let Kavanaugh into the Supreme Court. This is their last gasp because they have seen our power and they are afraid. When we show up in huge numbers, they have to be bigger than today. You need to rope in all your friends and family. In the face of enormous odds, we move the needle. We shift the cultural conversation. We remind each other that we are not alone and that we are, in fact, the majority. They are the minority. So let's do a list of our wins right now, okay? And this is just brief, and I'm forgetting something, so yell at me if there's something I'm forgetting, which is a lot. Whether it's the Women's March, the Muslim ban, healthcare, sexual violence, police violence, trans rights, family separation, or the Supreme Court nomination, they cannot and have not been able to ignore us, right? This is about living on the right side of history. This is about our children and our children's children. This is a lifetime appointment, for crying out loud. So, this is about exhausting their resources and their wills while we lose. And that's important because this is an uphill battle, right? But the balance will shift and we will win. So, show up today. Show up on the phones to your representatives. Show up on September 4th in DC. Get arrested. Let's shut this shit down. All right? Show up on September 13th. Who knows what September 13th is? So show up for the New York primaries. Tell everyone we know. It's on a Thursday. It's fucked up. Everyone's going to forget. It will take 1 second to vote that day. Show up on November 6th. Go knock doors, get out the vote, sit in, shut it all down, you guys. This has been 2 years of total fucking chaos, right? But now there is a silver lining, which is the midterms, if we take it all back and really get everyone we know to vote. So, I'm gonna leave us. Yeah, something, because America was never great. There's a lot of work to do, but we can get there if we all do it together. So, as the great Ella Baker said, I will leave you with this. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. So, if you're tired, take a nap, show back up, and then it is my great honor to introduce a shero of mine. So exciting. You may know her from a certain Lady Liberty and being the badass who scaled her. We have Patricia Okumu right here to speak to you all. Yay!
Thank you, everyone. I am so excited to be here with you. Thank you for giving me this platform to speak to the American public. America! 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 Guess what? I love you! My name is Patricia Okumo. On Independence Day, I chose to give the world the best 4th of July. In the name of justice, to raise consciousness in this digital age where everybody is numb to reality, where some of us have turned to alternative universe. I had to go so high because this country, unfortunately, had chosen to go so low. I am here to speak from my heart. I'm here to speak the truth. I'm here to speak for those who have no voice, the voiceless. In this issue of women and abortion, I tell you what, I've had 2 abortions in my life. And I am proud. As a woman, it's my body and it's my choice, America. Enough of telling people what to do with their body. Enough of telling people what to do with their choices. We can speak for ourselves. Just stop caging our children. We do not stand for that. For those who are wondering, what does it take to have a bold action like mine? For those who are wondering, what does that mean to be brave? I tell you, listen to your heart. Listen to your morality. Don't get fooled by what's going on around us right now. It is just distraction, pure evil, simple. We love each other. We love foreigners. Foreigners love us. It's always been like this. This is our history. We are a country of immigrants. This land we stand on is a stolen land. No human being is illegal on stolen land. We will not be silenced. We will continue to speak. We will continue to hit the street. We will continue to make signs. We will have posters. We will go to our representative and make phone calls and demand answers. We are taxpayers. I know you love my dress, don't you? Let me talk a little bit about my dress. When we had people in office that we didn't even choose to put in office, because the Russians, unfortunately, hacked our system and they put the thumb on the elections. When they're being hypocrites, we have to say no, no more. You cannot be a first lady of this country, walk around with a jacket that's insulting to our children. Enough! Enough of the hypocrisy. This woman does not wear logos ever. Stop being apologetics. She never came out and corrected her statement, which she was wearing on that day. Her spokesperson came out and said, oh, she was addressing the media. Since when she's ever waged a war on the media? It is her husband who tweets on her behalf and says nasty things about the media being the enemy of the people. She's never taken a position on that. But she's going to wear a jacket like that? That's very offensive. Because you know what? We care. So for that, I say, be best my ass. Hashtag. I love you, America. Keep fighting the good fight. This is just the beginning. Come on Tuesday, right here, Tuesday, August 28th at 11 o'clock. Show me your support, show me your love, because this is only the beginning. We'll fight to the end for women's rights, children's rights. Thank you.
Fundamental rights and freedom, and keep Judge Kavanaugh from gutting Roe versus Wade.
Thank you so much for your remarks. So, you know, there are so many important voices that need to stand up and talk about why Brett Kavanaugh is the wrong person to have on the Supreme Court, why Trump's nominee, Brett Kavanaugh, is wrong for our democracy. But some of the most important voices are going to be the people who have been directly impacted by these issues in the past. I am really pleased to announce my two very dear friends coming forward today who have really made their lives dedicated to fighting for abortion access for all and reproductive freedom. Please welcome to the stage Erica Christensen and Garen Marshall of RHA Vote. Hi everybody. We're Erica and Garen. We created RHA Vote, and we're patient advocates for the decriminalization of abortion in New York State. 2 years ago, I terminated a pregnancy at 32 weeks. When we found out that it was not viable, that if I carried to term, I would give birth to a baby who would not be able to breathe. But we were shocked to learn that in New York State, abortion is in the criminal code with a 24-week cutoff. This means that right now, New Yorkers are forced to carry pregnancies that are not viable or pregnancies that threaten their health in New York. Our trauma and our grief were compounded by having to get on a plane and fly across the country and pay a small fortune to mercifully end my pregnancy. And we were lucky because we could afford to do that. When you hear anti-choice zealots talking about abortion on demand, about abortion up until the 9th month, about the monsters who would do that, they are talking about people like me. Ordinary people who make the right decision for themselves and for their families. Legal abortions are used to stigmatize all abortions. Conservative lawmakers believe they can vilify us because the people most affected suffer silently, intimidated by stigma and shame. But there is no shame in demanding the freedom to make our own medical decisions. There is no shame in insisting that New York State finally observe the protections set forth in Roe v. Wade. And there is no shame in fighting this administration to protect rights that our mothers fought so hard for.
Kavanaugh's nomination is a national emergency, absolutely. But the stakes are so high because we have let so many abortion restrictions get on the books at the state level without rising up as a nation to support those fighting back. So please, join our fight here in New York. Go to rhavote.com to learn who your state senator is and where they stand on the decriminalization of abortion in New York. We are so close to realizing a pro-choice majority here in New York. We need one seat to flip, one, and together we can do it.
We can do this!
And with regard to Kavanaugh, whatever we're going to do, we have to do it now. we'll never be able to come back to this moment. Let's not wish we had done more. Fight the Kavanaugh confirmation with everything you have, and then vote in November like your rights depend on it, because they do. Thank you.
Stay angry, stay vigilant. We're going to take this country back and move forward. And we're going to sing as we do it.
This is a song called Rise. It's our honor to sing for all of you, for all of us, because that's what we're going to do. We're never going back. If one woman hurts, if one woman cries, if one man bleeds, rise. Up, get up, dance up, get up, sing up, get up, change everything. Up, get up, dance up, get up, sing up, get up, change everything. Silence must stop, violence must end, broken body and spirit will rise again. Strength in numbers, take a stand, right the wrongs, don't ask, demand. If one woman hurts, if one woman cries, if one man bleeds, rise, rise. Up, get up, dance up, get up, sing up, get up, change everything. Up, get up, dance up, get up, sing up, get up, change everything. Brothers, sisters, women, girls, time is now to change the world. No story forgotten, no soul erased, no promise left empty, we're taking our place. If one woman hurts, if one woman cries, if one man bleeds, rise, rise, get up, get up, get up, get up. What time is it? 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 Time to rise up. 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 Rise, rise. If one woman hurts, one woman, if one woman cries, one woman, if one man bleeds, rise, rise. Up, get up, dance up, get up, sing up, get up, change everything. Up, get up, dance up, get up, sing up, get up, change everything. What time is it? Time to rise up! Thank you, everybody. We'll see you at the polls. Bye-bye.
Okay, you guys, I have to say, you are so lucky here in New York to be represented by so many amazing people. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, Scott Stringer, and we're about to hear from somebody else who's representing you and really has your best interests at heart. Please welcome Manhattan Borough President Gail Brewer. Woo! Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here, and I think so many of you have been in this Foley Square. We should have a cot, because every time Orange Hair has opened his mouth, we have been here. Immigration, Muslim ban, environment, and I want to thank you. It's a big, big honor that you're here and that all the organizers put this together. So happy Women's Equality Day. That's what today is. So conservative billionaires and groups with weird names like the Judicial Crisis Network spending millions to support Brett Kavanaugh. Do you know why? It's because he comes from that same Federal Society shortlist as Neil Gorsuch. Make no mistake, there is a right-wing conspiracy to use the courts to promote their un-American agenda instead of upholding fairness and the law, like you do.
Conservatives have been working on this for 40 years. They have built up their own legal theories, and unfortunately their network of partisan judges to give a green light to voter suppression, voter intimidation. They are undermining labor unions like the Janus decision. They want to approve but have not been successful Muslim ban, and they want to give billionaires the right to draw elections and super PAC money, and they want to kill the environment. That's what they want to do. We know that Roe v. Wade is next. That's why we're here. What's left of our campaign finance and anti-corruption laws could be next after that. We will not let this happen. The conservative legal machine will keep grinding away at our laws and keep giving aid and comfort to the twin evils of racist policy and crony capitalism. But that's before we talk about the elephant in the room. With the Michael Cohen guilty plea, Donald Trump is now officially an unindicted co-conspirator in a federal crime. And co-conspirators in crimes who are under investigation should not get to appoint Supreme Court judges, right? We must fight like hell, and the fact that you're here, you're doing that. Make phone calls. Tell friends and family in Maine and Alaska in particular to call Senator Susan Collins and Senator Lisa Murkowski and tell them to step up. And just like you're doing today, keep showing in the streets. We must also win a pro-choice Democratic majority in our state Senate. And we must pass the Reproductive Health Act. So no matter what the Supreme Court does, New York remains a place where all women, all of us, can get the health care we need. Thank you very much.
All right, guys, thank you so much. That was awesome. Okay, so I told my mom that I would take a selfie of this incredible crowd. So I want everybody to put your hands up in the air. Everybody's hands up in the air with, hi, Mom. Hi, Mom. Awesome. I'm going to put that on Twitter so you guys can see it for yourselves. Next up, we have one of my wonderful, wonderful friends, someone I admire so much. She is one of the most kick-butt feminists around. She has been one of the leaders of the incredible Rise Up for Roe tour, which has swept the nation over the last 2 weeks. I know you all have seen it out there. Please give a huge, warm New York City welcome for the amazing Lauren Duca. Hi, thank you for having me, and thank you for being here in this heat, okay? We are sweating, we are out here. I want to tell you guys that you are the people, right? And we are not being told an accurate story of this movement, okay? I'm a journalist who has been made to figure out how to become an activist, and I don't understand how we're doing anything else but this fight, or how we are going to be told that this is something that will just happen. Pay no attention to the senators at the confirmation hearing. Are you fucking kidding me? No. And the way this is being presented as an inevitability is an insult to our democracy, period. The ways in which our senators should be standing up to this is not a matter of meeting with this man or voting yes or voting no. They should be fighting like hell on the record situation alone. This is an unprecedented, illegitimate confirmation process that should not even move forward. That's what we're talking about. Look, you're all out here and you're hot and it's 2018 somehow. Like, what have the past 2 years been? I don't even know where I am right now. It is tiring. And if you are not overwhelmed and distressed, you're in a coma. I don't need to tell that to the people who are here today. And it can be very hard to know where to train your energy other than trying to pick how to fight back. have to try to live your life and pay back your student loans and do your taxing job and try to find time to like enjoy yourself while fighting for equality, while fighting to save democracy. But this is the fight. This is all of the things. The fight to stop Kavanaugh is the entire sampler plate of atrocities. Do you understand me? This is what we have to train our energy on, and all of it, and right now. We cannot look back at what we were maybe doing during this time or how the stupid fucking New York Times was covering it. I had enough of being told we're stagnating. We are out here, and I have been, my ass is at a Clarion Inn in Portland, Maine, screaming about this shit. The left is not stagnating, I promise you. And now look, I'm sick also of this in general feeling of inevitability. That's how we talk about the Supreme Court, like it's this sanitized public institution that is still somehow separate from us. The reality is we are probably mostly progressives here today, and much has been made of the issue of two sides, but the majority of Americans do not want this man confirmed. Why? Why is it even a question? Why do we have senators who would dare to think to confirm a Supreme Court nominee who will shape lives for decades, who will forever shift the course of this country, what it means to be a citizen in terms of voting rights and affirmative action and LGBTQ protections and the family separation of the border? You don't think all that's about to come through the court? Never mind that the president is now an unindicted co-conspirator trying to ram through a Supreme Court nominee who does not believe presidents will be indicted. You should be furious. We need to be furious. And let me tell you this, I'm happy we had some New York elected officials out here today. They are not doing enough, and they need to be doing more. All of them. Everyone in the Senate needs to be fighting this like hell. These people work for us. These people work for us. Truly. You're going to call your senators. I know you are. I believe in you. You need to also tell your friends. I think that we sit and we wait and we hope that somebody will save us, and we need reminding all the time. You're out here in this heat. It is you. You are the movement. And I want to tell you also that we have the people power. We cannot trust the mainstream media to reflect back to us the size of a movement, that there were 5 million people across this country that came out the day after that man was inaugurated. You better believe that we have the numbers, and you better believe that these elected officials are going to answer to us, or they are not going to be re-elected. We need to get out, we need to vote, we need to be on the phone with these people, and you need to get your beloveds involved. You have loved ones, tell them why this matters to you. Do not let it get swept up into this conversation that we are having by their terms. We are not going to be told that this is impossible, because this is a winnable fight. That's another thing that we could have said a few more times today. We just need all the Democrats and 1 Republican. That is all that we need. This is winnable. Do you know what the last thing they told us was not winnable? Saving the ACA. What did we do? When you subscribe to inevitability, you confirm it as reality, and I am not accepting it, nor should you. We are not subjects of the law. We make the law, and we need to get on the phone with our senators, okay? I can't believe I don't have this number memorized right now, but it is 202-224-3121, and you better call every day. They count those calls. It's not just I made the one call. Take a little time. Integrate this fight into your life. Don't burn out. Take care of yourself, but keep fighting. This is where we leave it all on the field. This is the progressive fight of our time. This man will not shape our life for decades. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being here. Please keep going. Oh my gosh, Lauren, thank you so much. And one thing I want to say, you know, she was reminding all of us to call our senators. Call your senators. Call your senators. Call Senator Schumer. Call Senator Gillibrand. Today's a Sunday. If you call them, we're going to flood their voicemail. Tomorrow morning they're going to get to work. They're going to have all your voicemails. They can take those voice messages to the floor of the United States Senate, read them for Susan Collins to hear, for Lisa Murkowski to hear. I used to work on the Hill. That works. Call your senators. Nothing could be more important. So before we end this thing, I want to remind people, text UNITE to 668366. We're going to do one last cheer here, okay? We'll do one last cheer, video this one, it'll be our big one. Make sure you use that hashtag #StopKavanaugh, all right? We're going to say, Kavanaugh is too extreme. Keep him off the court supreme. Ready? Kavanaugh is too extreme. Keep him off the court supreme. Kavanaugh is too extreme. Keep him off the court supreme.
Kavanaugh is too extreme. Keep him off the court supreme.
One more.
Kavanaugh is too extreme. Keep him off the court supreme.
Awesome, you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, Move On. Thank you, NARAL. Thank you, all of you, for being here. Sign our banner in the back. Be a part of history. We can win this. Call your senators. Keep getting involved. This does not end right now. Stay involved. Thank you so much for coming.